Senegal to vote in snap parliamentary elections in mid-November after President Bassirou Diomaye Faye dissolved the opposition-dominated chamber, a move he's banking on to implement his policy agenda. 3 Americans are among 37 people sentenced to death in the Democratic Republic of Congo over what the army says was a coup attempt. A military court handed the sentences to 37 out of 51 defendants, including a Belgian, Briton, and Canadian, all naturalized Congolese. And a vibrant artwork and powerful solo drama Iloya unfolded on stage in Nigeria, shedding light on the realities people face while pursuing their dreams and how they make peace with the outcomes. That's this week on World of Africa at these times on WION World is One.
Hello and welcome you. Thanks for tuning into WION World is One. Some breaking news coming in from West Asia. 24 hours after Lebanon was rocked by multiple pager blasts, walkie-talkies exploded in Beirut. According to reports, these fresh blasts occurred in Hezbollah's stronghold regions. Preliminary information indicated that several wireless devices, walkie-talkies, exploded in the southern suburbs of Beirut, South Lebanon and the Bekaa region. And to get us the latest, our correspondent Gadi Francis is joining us live on the phone line. Gadi, what is the latest you have for us?
Well, another round of an attack has been carried on Lebanese people, left, right and center, in the homes, in their cars, on the streets. After yesterday, the latest news has linked this attack to the lithium substance inside the pagers. It was used to activate a blast that is preset in these devices. This is what the conclusion of yesterday's attack was. And similarly enough, today, another round of a very similar attack was carried on a different kind of devices, this time the talkie-walkies, apparently. Now, other incidents have been recorded where laptops and electronic devices blasted. This is why, in the first analysis, based on what happened yesterday in Beirut, the analysis and the reports are saying that this is linked to the lithium substance. Now, casualties have been reported, but the numbers are still not sure because this has happened minutes ago. The calls now and the warnings around Lebanon are to keep the way or to learn from yesterday's attack in the terms of the relief and the medical assistance that is required, because this is very massive and instant. It happened in the southern parts of Lebanon, in Beirut, and also in Bekaa. As you can see, these are used and utilized by different members of a political organization in Lebanon. So the presence of these talkie-walkies, pagers, and other communication devices is spread all across the country in every town and in every car. Thus, the massive recorded casualties and injuries.
Right. Gadi, in fact, Hezbollah has categorically blamed Israel for yesterday's attacks. Are we hearing anything else from Hezbollah?
It is not only blamed Israel. The Israeli authorities and the Israeli reports and the Israeli media has been very obvious in also taking responsibility, and somehow in the media some people were showing off the results. So it is not only a matter of a mystery. This has already been announced by the attackers. And also the service, the provider of these pagers, the international company, has outlined a message saying that something might have happened to these pagers on their way to Lebanon, not that the actual company is responsible. So this is basically analysis, and reports have been blaming the Mossad, and the Mossad did not deny any responsibility at that point. Hezbollah is very different in the way of retaliation and in the way they have been carrying on this war. If we take this into the context, this has taken this war into a different level, as in the limits that Israel doesn't have anymore in the attacks. But Hezbollah has been playing in a different sense since the beginning, and we're now almost a year into this kind of tit and tat between Israel and Lebanon. Hezbollah does not act in impulsiveness, and I suppose the retaliation would not be very instant.
All right, Gadi, we continue to get a lot of fresh visuals coming in from Lebanon, and as you said, this comes 24 hours after another attack where pagers were involved, and this time we are being told that walkie-talkies have exploded across Hezbollah strongholds in Beirut. Gadi, thank you so much for getting us all those updates. We will be staying in touch with you for all other developments.
Thank you.
We will be tracking West Asia very closely and the developments that are coming in from the region. For now, let's move across to our edition of Race to Power. And starting this broadcast with India, the country's cabinet has approved the proposal for the One Nation, One Election bill. The development comes after a committee headed by former President Ramnath Kovind submitted a report on the election reform. According to the reports, the bill will be introduced in Parliament during the upcoming winter session. The reform aims to synchronize India's election process by conducting simultaneously holding polls at the national and state levels. Opposition parties have reacted strongly to the centre's approval of the One Nation, One Election bill, and that has been at the epicenter of the controversy. In fact, Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge slammed the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, saying that the party will not support the bill.
उसको नहीं मानते, ये नहीं चलने वाला है डेमोक्रेसी में। ये डेमोक्रेसी को टिकाना है तो जब चाहिए तब इलेक्शन करना पड़ेगा।
Trinamool Congress leader Derek O'Brien also criticized the centre's move, calling it a cheap stunt. The BJP has for long proposed implementation of One Nation, One Election, arguing that the frequent elections in the country are a hindrance to the country's development and progress. To take this conversation further, political campaign advisor and communication consultant Dileep Cherian is joining us live on the broadcast. Mr. Cherian, thank you so much for joining us on WION. I would like to hear your first thoughts on the One Nation, One Election plan.
The idea has been mooted for a while now, and it has been in the manifesto, so it's not a huge surprise. But from what I'm hearing from experts on elections and on politics, the biggest question is going to be on federalism and what it implies for the federal nature of the Indian polity. There are practical issues. There are people who point out that we were not able to do 4 state elections even at the same time just now. But those are political scoring points. The big point is, what does it do to the concept of federalism? And why is it that globally it hasn't found acceptance in any country which practices everyday democracy? So from a point of view of democracy and from the point of view of practicality, there are issues. But the idea, which has been around for a while, sounds tantalizing, looks like it's a great idea to minimize the friction of constant politics over policy making. And as someone who's been involved in both policy making as well as in working with politicians and political parties, let me say that this is a debate which never got to this level before. So it's unique. And in a sense, from my point of view, it's also a means of wresting the narrative from how things are going in politics at the moment.
Right, you make a very interesting point there, Mr. Cherian. The report that's led by former President Ramnath Kovind claims that the plan will actually help optimize scarce resources, also make the electoral process easier for voters, and there could be faster economic growth, in fact, a more stable economy for India. Would you agree with that kind of assessment?
My sense is that as far as the impact on the economy is concerned, my belief is that more churn equals more charge. So the economy gets charged each time there is an election. So that's fundamentally flawed, that argument. But the Kovind report has a point where it says that it will ensure that policy making is not constantly hostage to politics of the moment. So that has been a problem with India, mainly because most parties, when they go to elections, go with a manifesto and then are quickly making changes to the way they govern and the way they run the government. So in a sense, it is the failure of the electorate to hold the parties to be accountable for what they have in their manifestos, which is the real problem.
All right, Mr. Cherian, thank you so much for joining us on WION and getting us your insights.
Thank you.
Staying within India, in a historic election, voters in Jammu and Kashmir have stepped out in large numbers to cast their ballot in the first phase of assembly elections. As of 5 p.m., 58.19% of voter turnout has been recorded.
Long queues were witnessed at polling booths across the Jammu and Kashmir Valley as voters came out in large numbers to exercise their democratic right. After 10 long years, Jammu and Kashmir is conducting assembly elections. 24 assembly constituencies in 7 districts were up for polls in the first of 3 phases. Over 2.3 million people were eligible to vote in Phase 1 alone. For the valley, it has been an election of many firsts. This is the first assembly poll to be held since Jammu and Kashmir lost its special status after the abrogation of Article 370. Effectively, this makes it the first election for Jammu and Kashmir as a union territory and not a state. It is the very question of restoring statehood that is one of the key issues this election. One that has also been promised by several parties in return for a popular mandate. But beyond the political rhetoric, guarantees, claims and counterclaims, a multitude of issues linger in the valley. Unemployment in several parts of Jammu and Kashmir stands at over 18%, more than double the national average. While prosperity is a major concern, locals recognize how every issue hinges on the biggest expectation: peace and stability in the region.
We are voting for the first time since the abrogation of Article 370. People expect unemployment and unlawful detention issues to be addressed. Kashmir is struggling with plenty of issues right now. We want the situation to become normal.
But voters in Jammu and Kashmir are looking at a multi-cornered battle, not just between mainstream parties, but several independent candidates and smaller regional parties which have formed formidable alliances. The second phase of voting will be held on September 25th and the final phase on October 1st. With results to be counted on October 8th, the outcome of this election is surely expected to alter Jammu and Kashmir's political landscape.
Assembly elections return to Kashmir Valley after 10 long years. Huge queues of people were seen outside every polling booth in the Kashmir as well as in the Jammu region. This clearly signifies that people have chosen ballot over boycott. With video journalist Firoz Idris Lone for WION World is One.
Let's now talk about an election that is going to be pivotal for Sri Lanka. Today is the last day of campaigning. Voting is slated for September 21st. That's this Saturday. Here are some visuals and voter reactions coming in from the country.
Business has fallen right to the bottom. It will be very difficult to recover. When you sell a fruit, earlier we had a profit of 8 rupees. Now it is just 4 rupees. People don't have money to buy these fruits.
Well, I don't think any of the three main candidates in its entirety captures the intentions or the aspirations of the Aragalaya. But people did ask for a system change, right? So in that sense, I see a majority of the people who took part in the Aragalaya wanting to see somebody from the working class to be in power.
They come and take our vote, and after that, they don't care about us. They must help us. There is no point in them taking our vote if they don't do anything. We need a place to stay.
Now, our correspondent Dasunya Thawda went onto the streets to gauge the mood on the last day of campaigning. She reports from Colombo.
With election campaigns and rallies ending at midnight tonight, the all-important presidential election of Sri Lanka will head to its silent period of 48 hours before 17 million voters head to the polls on the 21st of September to elect Sri Lanka's next president. An election that is sure to go down in history as a contest that is closely fought by a few top runners. Stay with WION as we bring you the very latest reporting from Colombo. I'm Dasunia Tauda.
Let's now get to the numbers. If you are watching us from Sri Lanka, here is everything you need to know ahead of the elections. The South Asian country of Sri Lanka is heading to elections on September 21st. That's this Saturday. The country of 22 million will be choosing its 10th president, and this time there are over 17 million registered voters. Sri Lanka also allows some advance voting, so those who cannot vote in person on election day can choose to vote early. This is not a provision for everyone, and this time a little over 700,000 are eligible. There will be over 13,000 polling stations spread across 22 electoral districts. Coming to the candidates now, it is the highest number of choices Sri Lankans have had in history. There were 39 candidates in total, but sadly one candidate died and he wasn't replaced by the Election Commission. So even with the number 38, Sri Lankans are being offered a variety of candidates. Among them, 4 have emerged at the top. Current President Ranil Wickremesinghe is looking for a re-election, banking on his Redeemer of Lanka role. Leader of the opposition, Sajith Premadasa, is positioning himself as a champion of the people. Anura Kumara Dissanayaka is running on a platform of radical change. The once powerful Rajapaksa family has fielded Namal Rajapaksa, son of former President and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. With the highest literacy rate in South Asia, the voter turnout has been consistently soaring in Sri Lanka. In the last 10 years, it has jumped by close to 11 percentage points. Sri Lanka is not just the pearl of the Indian Ocean. It has regional and geopolitical significance. Domestic and international observers are already overseeing the preparations, and others from world capitals are keenly watching what happens this Saturday. And just like that, we will continue to cover elections in Sri Lanka very closely. Stay tuned for ground reports and explainers on WION World is One. Shifting focus to the United States, just over 6 weeks to go, the country will decide its next president amid security concerns after repeated assassination attempts on Donald Trump. The election campaigns are intensifying clearly. But trust the Republican leader to take an attempt on his life as a validation. At a rally in the battleground state of Michigan, Trump said it is only consequential presidents who get shot at.
You know, only consequential presidents get shot at. When I say something like that, you have countries saying this guy, but what can you do? You have to do what you have to do, right? We have to be brave, otherwise we're not going to have a country left.
Supporters of the former president are rallying behind him after he reportedly escaped a second assassination attempt at a golf course in his home state of Florida.
Well, I have to be here for Trump. They just tried to assassinate him again, and I was there in Butler, and I'm having like a lot of PTSD since Butler, and I have to come out here and show that I'm strong too, because this man's out here taking bullets for us, so I have to be strong too.
Over in the Democratic camp, presidential nominee Kamala Harris sat down for an interview in the battleground state of Pennsylvania. It is no surprise that the race became a topic of conversation for the vice president from Jamaican Indian descent.
I think it's very important to not operate from the assumption that black men are in anybody's pocket. Black men are like any other voting group. You got to earn their vote. So I'm working to earn the vote, not assuming I'm going to have it because I am black.
Now, in a significant development for the U.S. steel industry, the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States has allowed Nippon Steel to refile its $14.9 billion bid for U.S. steel. This decision pushes the review process past the upcoming presidential election, highlighting the merger's complex implications for national security, jobs and the steel supply chain. Nippon Steel's bid for U.S. steel, valued at $14.9 billion, is now under renewed scrutiny as Spheres takes additional time to assess the deal's impact on national security. The merger is particularly sensitive given U.S. Steel's headquarters in Pennsylvania, a key swing state in the upcoming election. Both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump have publicly expressed their opposition to foreign ownership of U.S. Steel. Harris stated that she wants U.S. Steel to remain American-owned and operated, emphasizing the political stakes involved. This sentiment is echoed by President Joe Biden, adding pressure on the deal. The refiled application resets the review clock to 90 days, pushing the final decision to December, after the presidential election, that is. And this delay may elevate some political pressure but does not guarantee approval. CFIUS has raised concerns that the merger could disrupt the U.S. steel supply chain, vital for industries like transportation, construction and agriculture. They worry that Nippon Steel might not prioritize U.S. production, especially with the ongoing influx of cheap steel from China. In response, Nippon Steel has pledged to invest billions in U.S. steel facilities, aiming to boost domestic production. They argue that this merger could enhance competitiveness against China while committing to maintain jobs and production within the U.S. However, the United Steelworkers Union remains vehemently opposed, stating that nothing has changed regarding national security risks or supply chain concerns. Market reactions have been mixed. Nippon Steel shares rose by 1.1%, while U.S. Steel shares saw a slight decline of 0.4%. Investors are closely monitoring this merger, given its potential implications for the industry. And this deal is not just a corporate merger, it's a reflection of broader economic relations between the U.S. and Japan, a critical ally and an investor. As this situation unfolds, the stakes are high for American jobs, the steel supply chain and international relations. And with that, we are wrapping up this edition of Race to Power. Thanks for watching with me and Anya Datta. Goodbye.